3:22 a.m. the Persian Gulf, 22 nautical miles northeast of Bahrain. 11 Iranian patrol boats just broke formation and accelerated directly toward USS The Sullivans at full speed. No radio contact, no warning flares, no attempt at communication, just 11 boats closing at 40 knots in the dark. The crew had 90 seconds before the first one entered weapons range. Welcome to Navy Beacon, where we break down the operations that define sea power. USS The Sullivans was 4 hours into a routine surface patrol when the contacts appeared on the AN/SPY-1D radar. Not appeared, materialized. That is the more accurate word. For the previous 40 minutes, the radar picture had shown a loose cluster of small contacts, approximately 6 nautical miles to the northeast. Stationary, consistent with a group of fishing dhows anchored for the night. The contact group had been logged at 2:41 a.m. by the Surface Warfare Coordinator, evaluated as non-threatening, and placed on routine monitoring. At 3:21 a.m., all 11 contacts began moving simultaneously. The speed buildup was rapid. Within 30 seconds, the contacts were registering at 35 knots. Within 60 seconds, 41 knots. The bearing to USS The Sullivans was constant across all 11 tracks. Constant bearing, decreasing range. Every surface warfare officer learns that phrase in their first year of training. Constant bearing, decreasing range means collision or attack. The tactical action officer on watch, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, had the picture on his screen and was already reaching for the general quarters alarm when the officer of the watch called down from the bridge. Tau Bridge, I've got multiple fast movers, visual bearing 045. They're running dark, no lights, running dark. 11 boats, converging at 41 knots. General quarters sounded at 3:22:19 a.m. To understand what USS The Sullivans was facing, you need to understand the IRGC Navy's patrol boat inventory. The Thondor-class fast attack craft is the backbone of the IRGC's light attack force. It is a 23-meter fiberglass hull vessel capable of 50 knots in calm water. It carries a 40mm autocannon, rocket pods, and can be fitted with C-802 anti-ship missiles. Its radar cross-section is extremely small, roughly equivalent to a large fishing boat on most surface search radars. The 11 contacts closing on USS The Sullivans were not all Thondor-class. Satellite assessment later confirmed the mix. 4 Thondor-class fast attack craft, 5 lighter speedboat variants armed with heavy machine guns and rocket pods, and 2 larger Thondor-class missile boats positioned further back, outside immediate engagement range but within C-802 missile firing distance. The speedboats in front were the bait. The Thondor-class missile boats in the back were the kill shot. That tactical geometry, draw the defender's attention forward with fast boats while the missile platforms hold back, had been war-gamed at the Naval War College 3 years prior. The assessment conclusion had been that this tactic posed a serious threat to a single destroyer without air cover. USS The Sullivans had air cover, barely. 2 SH-60B Seahawk helicopters were embarked aboard the ship. At 3:22 a.m., one, call sign Wolfpack 14, was airborne on routine surface surveillance patrol, operating 3 miles to the south of the ship. The second, Wolfpack 15, was on deck, rotors folded, crew in the ready room. Wolfpack 14's pilot, Lieutenant Commander Diana Cho, had the contact picture from the ship's data link and was already repositioning toward the threat when general quarters sounded. She was the first American to engage. At 3:23:41 a.m., 1 minute and 22 seconds after general quarters, the lead Iranian speedboats entered the 2,000-meter threshold. That is the boundary inside which, under 5th Fleet standing rules of engagement for unprovoked high-speed approaches toward a U.S. warship in international waters, weapons employment is authorized without further command approval. The 5 speedboats in the lead group were now at 1,800 meters and closing. Lieutenant Webb, in CIC, passed weapons free to the bridge and to Wolfpack 14. Wolfpack 14 already had her forward-looking infrared camera locked on the lead boat. She was carrying 2 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles on her port pylon and a door-mounted M240D machine gun on her starboard side. The Hellfire is a laser-guided precision strike missile, originally designed for anti-armor use and extensively adapted for naval strike operations. Its warhead, a shaped charge, is designed to penetrate armor plate. Against a fiberglass speedboat, it is catastrophic. At 1,600 meters from USS The Sullivans, Lieutenant Commander Cho fired the first Hellfire. The missile's flight time to the lead boat, under 4 seconds. The detonation was visible from the bridge of USS The Sullivans as a brief, intense orange flash at water level. The lead boat disintegrated. The second Hellfire launched 11 seconds later against the next contact in the column. Second detonation, second boat destroyed. But the remaining 9 contacts were not stopping. They were spreading out, fanning into a wider approach formation, reducing the helicopter's ability to engage multiple targets in a single firing pass. USS The Sullivan's own weapons were now engaging. The Mk-38 25mm chain gun on the port bridge wing, operated by gunner's mate second-class Torres, opened fire on the nearest speedboat at 1,200 meters range. The chain gun's cyclic rate is 200 rounds per minute. At that range, with a stationary gun platform firing at a target moving at 40 knots on a converging bearing, the firing solution is straightforward. The first burst, 40 rounds, stitched across the approaching boat's bow. The second burst, 60 rounds, walked up the hull and detonated whatever fuel or ordnance the boat was carrying. The explosion was large enough that burning debris rained down on the water 200 meters in every direction. 3 boats down, 8 remaining. The 4 Saraj-class fast attack craft, larger, more heavily armed, and faster than the speedboats, had broken to the northwest and were now approaching from a different bearing, attempting to split the Sullivan's defensive fire between 2 directions simultaneously. This was the critical moment. The ship could not effectively engage contacts on both bearings simultaneously with its forward weapons. The 5-inch Mark 45 deck gun was being brought to bear on the Saraj formation. But the gun's engagement rate against fast-moving surface contacts at close range was not designed for this scenario. The 5-inch gun excels at longer ranges. At 800 meters, against a 40-knot target maneuvering hard, it is slower and less precise than the chain guns. The 2 Thondor-class missile boats, still holding position 8 nautical miles out, had not yet acted. That changed at 3:26 a.m. USS The Sullivan's electronic warfare suite, the AN/SLQ-32, detected a fire control radar emission from the northeast at 3:26:04 a.m. C-802 targeting radar. The Thondor-class boats were lighting up their fire control systems. Lieutenant Webb had a decision in front of him that the tactical manuals describe clearly, but that feels different when you are actually living it. The ship was engaged in a close-range surface action with 8 remaining fast boats, some inside 600 meters, and simultaneously had 2 missile-armed platforms 8 miles out preparing to fire. He could not split his attention between both threats equally. He called for Wolfpack 15, still on deck, to launch immediately. The Wolfpack 15 crew had been at battle stations since general quarters. The helicopter was spotted on the flight deck with rotors folded. Unfolding, starting, and launching takes a minimum of 4 minutes under emergency conditions. 4 minutes. In 4 minutes, the Thondor boats would either fire or not fire, and the close-range fight would either be resolved or not resolved. Option A, continue engaging the close-range speedboats with all available weapons. Accept the missile threat from the Thondors, and rely on the ship's Phalanx and SM-2 to defeat any incoming C-802s. Option B, break off the close-range engagement, accelerate to maximum speed to put distance between the ship and the fast boats, and reposition Wolfpack 14 against the Thondor missile threat. Option C, continue close-range engagement while simultaneously preparing SM-2 for a preemptive engagement against the Thondor boats before they can fire. What would you do? Comment below, A, B, or C. Lieutenant Webb chose a version of Option C. He authorized the SM-2 standard missile engagement against the Thondor-class contacts at 8 nautical miles. Not as a preemptive strike in the traditional sense, but as a warning shot with terminal effect. The SM-2's warhead, detonating near the surface in proximity to a vessel, creates an overpressure blast and fragmentation pattern that can damage systems and, critically, interrupt a fire control solution. 2 SM-2s launched from the Mark 41 VLS at 3:26:44 a.m. The Thondor boats went radar silent immediately. Both SM-2s, now without a terminal guidance lock from the target's radar, switched to their own active terminal seekers and prosecuted the closest large contact. 1 missile detonated close aboard the lead Thondor. Damage assessment later indicated the blast had destroyed the boat's radar mast and riddled the hull with fragmentation. The vessel did not sink immediately, but was dead in the water. The second Thondor reversed course at high speed toward Iranian territorial waters. The missile threat had been neutralized. Back in the close-range fight, the picture was deteriorating on one axis and stabilizing on another. The Siraj formation had reached 500 meters on the ship's port bow. At that range, the 5-inch gun could not safely engage. The blast overpressure from a proximity fuse detonation that close to the ship would damage the Sullivan's own sensors and topside personnel. Wolfpack 14 had repositioned and was making a gun run with her M24OD on the Siraj column. The M24OD fires 7.62mm rounds, effective against personnel and light hull structures, not against the Siraj's heavier fiberglass reinforced composite hull. But it was enough to disrupt. 2 of the 4 Siraj boats broke off their attack run when the helicopter's tracer stream walked across their decks. One Siraj boat, the lead craft, continued. It came alongside USS The Sullivans at 3:28:11 a.m., 180 meters off the port beam, and opened fire with its 40mm autocannon. 17 rounds impacted USS The Sullivans in the next 8 seconds. 11 hit above the waterline in non-critical areas, superstructure, antenna mounts, and exhaust stack. 4 hit the bridge wing area. 1 round penetrated the forward equipment room through a ventilation intake, destroyed a communications relay panel, and wounded 2 technicians working inside. 1 round hit Petty Officer 2nd Class Kevin Marsh as he was manning the port bridge wing chain gun. He was struck in the left shoulder. He did not leave his gun. He fired until the Siraj boat came to a stop. The after-action report would describe what happened next in 4 words. Target ceased hostile action. What happened was this: Wolfpack 14, repositioning after her gun run, came back around and put her last Hellfire into the Siraj boat at point-blank range, 200 meters, as it was pulling away from the ship's side. The Siraj boat disintegrated. The engagement was over at 3:29:58 a.m., 7 minutes and 39 seconds from first alarm to last shot. The final assessment: 9 of 11 attacking vessels destroyed or disabled. The lead Thondor-class missile boat dead in the water. The second Thondor and 2 surviving speedboats in retreat toward Iranian waters. USS The Sullivans sustained 17 direct hits from 40mm cannon fire, minor structural damage, and 2 personnel casualties. Petty Officer Marsh was medevac to the Naval Medical Center Bahrain by helicopter at 4:15 a.m. He underwent surgery for the shoulder wound and returned to duty 6 weeks later. The 2 technicians wounded in the equipment room received treatment aboard ship. No American sailor died in the engagement. The communications relay panel destroyed by the 40mm round took the ship's primary long-range HF radio offline for 11 hours. During that period, the Sullivans operated on backup VHF and satellite communications. The gap was manageable, but the after-action review noted that a more precisely aimed round, or a heavier weapon, aimed at the same penetration point could have created a communications blackout at a critical moment. The IRGC boat that almost made it alongside had identified a vulnerability. Wolfpack 14 landed back aboard USS The Sullivans at 3:47 a.m. Lieutenant Commander Cho's aircraft had taken small arms fire during her gun run. 2 7.62mm rounds had passed through the tail rotor housing without causing structural failure. She had not reported the hits during the engagement. She reported them on landing. When asked later why she hadn't called it in, she said she hadn't noticed until the firing stopped. Wolfpack 14 was awarded the Navy Unit Commendation. Lieutenant Commander Cho received the Distinguished Flying Cross. Iran's official position, released through state media 14 hours after the engagement, was that IRGC naval forces had been conducting a defensive security patrol and had been aggressively intercepted by a U.S. warship operating in a restricted security zone. No acknowledgement of casualties, no acknowledgement of missile boat damage. The U.S. Fifth Fleet statement was brief and precise. USS The Sullivans was attacked without provocation in international waters. The ship defended itself in accordance with standing rules of engagement. All threats were defeated. The ship remained fully operational. The UN Security Council did not convene an emergency session. The engagement was too small, too fast, and too unambiguous for the international diplomatic machinery to engage with productively. Iran had attacked. The US had responded. The ship had survived. The insurance implications were not small. 3 commercial shipping companies operating tanker routes through the Central Gulf temporarily rerouted their vessels to stay further south, adding between 6 and 14 hours to each transit. The cost of those reroutings, fuel, time, contract penalties, ran into millions of dollars over the following 2 weeks. One engagement, 7 minutes, millions of dollars in downstream commercial disruption. That ratio, the cost of an IRGC fastboat operation versus the cost imposed on U.S. and Allied commercial shipping, was not lost on Iranian planners. The boats that had been destroyed cost the IRGC roughly $2 million in total. The commercial disruption and U.S. Navy response costs ran orders of magnitude higher. The after-action review produced 3 significant findings. The first was the intelligence gap. The 11 boats had assembled under the cover of an anchored fishing vessel cluster, a technique that had been documented in IRGC exercises, but had not been assessed as an operational tactic. The review updated threat assessment criteria for stationary small vessel clusters within 12 nautical miles of U.S. ship patrol routes. The second was the Wolfpack 15 launch delay. 4 minutes from general quarters to launch ready was assessed as an unacceptable gap when the primary airborne asset was alone against 11 contacts. The recommendation that 1 helicopter remain at 5-minute launch readiness at all times during Gulf patrols, not the standard 15-minute, was implemented within the week. The third finding was about Petty Officer Kevin Marsh. He had been hit by a 40mm cannon round, continued firing his weapon, and had not left his station until the engagement was over. His action, maintaining the chain gun on the attacking Siraj boat during the critical seconds when it was alongside the ship, was assessed by the review board as directly contributing to the boat's eventual destruction by preventing it from making a second firing pass. The Distinguished Service Medal recommendation was submitted 2 weeks after the engagement. It was approved. But the finding that stayed with the review board longer than any other was not about heroism or tactics or intelligence gaps. It was about the Thondor boats. The 2 Thondor-class missile boats had not fired their C-802s. They had gone radar silent when the SM-2s launched. The review assessed with high confidence that the SM-2 engagement and the destruction of the lead Thondor had prevented a C-802 launch that would have reached USS The Sullivans during the close-range fight when the ship's attention was entirely focused on the boats at 500 meters. A C-802 hitting a destroyer already engaged in a close-range gunfight with crew on exposed deck positions would have been a different outcome. How different? The review board modeled 3 scenarios. In 2 of the 3, the casualty count was above 20. In the third, if the C-802 had hit the bridge, the number was higher. Those scenarios didn't happen. The SM-2s launched in time. The Thondors went silent. The ship survived. But the Thondor tactic, fast boats in front, missile boats behind, was now documented, war-gamed, and sitting in every surface warfare officer's threat library. The IRGC had tested the combination. It had nearly worked. Stay vigilant, stay informed. This is Navy Beacon, and we'll see you in the next one.